Hey everyone, in this Grim Dawn skill video, we are going to be looking at a skill that really needs no introduction for the people that have been following my channel for any length of time. It's Albrecht's Aether Ray, a powerful arcane technique perfected by Master Albrecht in the years just preceding the Grim Dawn that channels raw arcane energies into a concentrated beam of destruction, requires a caster offhand. Albrecht's Aether Ray is a sit and channel ability, meaning you are rooted in place while using it, but it deals a crap ton of damage to a single target. Looking at Albrecht's Aether Ray, the skill window, you can see that it costs a lot of energy per second, has a tiny skill recharge rate, which is mostly just so you don't end up like spamming it a lot, and then it deals a lot of fire and aether damage. The fire damage is variable, the aether damage is fixed. Albrecht's Aether Ray, you fire a giant green laser that pours out damage on a single target. You can see the math for the ability right there. Albrecht's Aether Ray has one transmuter, Tainted Power, and one modifier, Disintegration. So let's look at the modifier first. Pours all of your energy into the Aether Ray, turning it into a catastrophic force that disintegrates all it touches. Energy cost increase is per damage interval. So in disintegration here, you'll see that it has the energy cost, it adds flat vitality damage, adds some crit damage onto the beam, and then percent fire and aether damage, just like a lot of modifiers do with their abilities. So what the energy cost increase means is every time the energy ticks down, that cost is cumulatively added on. So it goes like 3, 6, 9, etc, 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 as the beam goes on. Or so I assume. I haven't really done a lot of math on it to determine whether or not disintegration is just like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, or whatever the cost is for you. With your gear, or if it goes 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, etc, etc. But yeah, that's what I assume it is. It's an ever-increasing cost as it goes, but it's not actually that huge a cost. And I'll put on my gear to show what it looks like when it's at 12 out of 12. And then the transmuter is Tainted Power, corrupts the beam by instead fueling it with the raging powers of the chaotic void. It converts 100% of the aether damage on the beam to chaos damage. Keep in mind, this is only the aether damage on Albrecht's Aether Ray, and it does the conversion first. So what'll happen is the 1200 aether damage we have here is just turned into 1200 chaos damage. Then the percent aether damage from disintegration is changed to percent chaos damage, and then all of your chaos damage is added on. You don't get a double dip out of this, where you get, say, aether damage, build up your ray as aether damage, and then it converts all of the damage to chaos damage. It's just the damage on the attack itself because of the order of operations that happens with conversion. Okay, so here's a fully geared Albrecht's Aether Ray ability and fully geared disintegration. As you can see, Albrecht's Aether Ray costs 1,000 energy per second at 25 of 16. That's a lot of energy, and you can see it draining out of my energy bar really, really quickly. But because I have a crap ton of energy regen, which we will actually look at with this character, 288 to be precise, my energy is already back within the time it took me to say that sentence. Albrecht's Aether Ray deals a crap ton of damage. 42k is what I have for my Albrecht's Aether Ray right now. And as you can see, it deals 5,000 to 7,000 damage. So Albrecht's Aether Ray is an absurd amount of damage to one target. For disintegration here, it costs 14 energy, and I would assume it goes like 14, 28, 42, etc, down the line. But it does add a good chunk of vitality damage, and we can actually look at that real quick. It's not a lot of vitality damage, mostly because I'm not really geared for vitality damage. But it does add vitality damage on, and it does increase the crit damage by quite a bit. That's really what you want disintegration for, in my opinion. Usually with disintegration, I don't take it above 12 out of 12 unless I'm doing a weird setup for it, because the damage you get from it is not worth the points going above 12, in my opinion. The Aether Ray itself, though, you'll definitely want as high as possible. I have run 26 out of 16, and it deals a crap ton of damage, and even at 25 out of 16, it's still a crap ton of damage. The biggest thing about Albrecht's Aether Ray is offsetting the energy cost per second, which you need just a crap ton of energy regen to do, and you kind of have to accept that, yeah, you can burn down a target for a while, but you'll kind of have to accept the fact that you're firing the beam and then stopping firing the beam for a second to get your energy back, more than trying to offset the massive cost. For in-class synergies, there are quite a few, because it's all fire and aether. Kalidor's Tempest is not a bad ability to pair the Aether Ray with. You can either use it as a main attack ability next to the Aether Ray, like say you're sniping things with the beam, enemies get close, and then you switch to the Tempest. That's a fine way to do it. You could also do it as 1 point on the Tempest, 1 point on Wrath of Agravax to get the knockdown worked in there. It also crosses really well with Devastation, and I recommend throwing just a single point in Devastation and then leaving it. You could get it to 16 out of 16 or higher, but Devastation just with a point, because you're so geared towards Fire and Aether already, and you don't really get more projectiles or duration out of Devastation as you grow it, you just get damage. I actually think it works incredibly well as a 1-point wonder. You'll definitely want to get Reckless Power to at least 12 out of 12. You generally don't need to get it higher because the casting speed increases can actually harm your ability to work with Albrecht's Aether Ray. Because Albrecht's Aether Ray, like, the energy cost is absurd, so having a higher casting speed can actually be detrimental to you because it does increase you know, how much energy is, like, how fast the beam will deal its damage intervals, which in turn increases how much energy is just sucked out of you. So, generally speaking, I get Reckless Power to 12 out of 12. It adds a crap ton of percent fire and aether damage to your character. You sort of lose out on the conversion and the flat aether damage, but the casting speed is nice, as is, you know, the damage increases, obviously. And then, the burn damage is a little lost on you, but depending on how you're combining the character, the burn damage could actually be quite the benefit. I also look at a Scoundrel's Elemental Exchange as a main ability for this character, not because of the flat elemental damage or the energy leech or the conversion, but 22 out of 12 on a Scoundrel's Elemental Exchange is 100% energy regen, which is incredibly important to your character. Obviously, Mirror of Aractes and Myvan Sphere you'll want. Electra's Flash Freeze is incredibly helpful with that fire resistance reduction, and it's pretty standard at this point for what I use with Albrecht's Aether Ray, and you can actually check build videos for the specifics on all of this stuff and why I go with it. Similarly, why the Demolitionist is set up the way it is for me presently. You can check out the 1.0.0.5 or 0.6, whatever version we're in currently, for my specific build with the Sorcerer combination. But just for a quick overview, Flame Touch is great, Blast Shield is great. I use Blackwater Cocktail for the Arcane Bomb proc. You can also combine it with Flashbangs really effectively, and Canister Bomb with Concussive Bomb. Works well as well. I would avoid Fire Strike. Stunjacks may be a potential build just because there's some Aether Lightning combinations floating around in the devotion tree, but for the most part, this is my current setup for an Albrecht's Aether Ray Sorcerer. So with Albrecht's Aether Ray, you can pretty much run it in any class combination. However, the two big ones that synergize well together are the Sorcerer and the Warlock. And I pointed out the Sorcerer stuff, and I have build videos of the Sorcerer all over the place on my channel. So I'm just going to point out some of the Warlock synergies that work with this character, or work with this ability. The reason the Warlock is the other big combination is because of Tainted Power. You turn the Aether Ray essentially into a Fire Chaos Vitality ability, and Fire Chaos Vitality is essentially what the Occultist is. And that allows you to combine synergies really well with, say, Sigil of Consumption, because it's all Vitality damage with Fire and Chaos damage. Allows you to use Soleil's Witchfire to boost up the damage types on your beam. Crosses well with Curse of Frailty for two of the resistance reductions. Obviously, you're going to want Blood of Dreeg with this build, but it also crosses with Doombolt and with Possession. Now, if you get a Blood Orb of Chthon, you can actually make the character entirely Chaos damage based, because that would convert all of the elemental damage on the beam to chaos damage, in addition to tainted power converting all of the damage into chaos damage. So you'd just be running vitality chaos damage at that point. And possession would be awesome for that. Doombolt would be a great crossover for that. Vulnerability would probably lose a bit of its usefulness for that particular setup, but yeah, Soleil's Witchfire would become amazing with that on top of its already amazing amazingness. And I mean, Sigil would obviously just be Vitality Chaos as well. But you could also potentially pick up Storm Spirit. I will mention it because of the elemental damage increase for the fire damage. Otherwise, yeah, your big combination is going to be working with the Fire Chaos Vitality synergies between the two classes. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So for item synergies, I'm going to mention a few things and another like alternative build concept for a Warlock. So for gloves, you have Aether Reach, which is pretty much your go-to gloves for Albrecht's Aether Ray. Not only do you get +2 to both of your main abilities, you'll also get the Aether Cascade ability, which adds these little green Aether Lightning Bolts that deal a lot of damage. And as you're attacking with the Aether Ray, you'll sort of see them shoot off of you and hit things you aren't directly attacking a lot of the time, or it will actually just shoot the thing you are attacking. It's a really, really great additional ability and makes the build a lot easier to use. I'm also going to point out the Albrecht's Duality Rings. These have +2 to Disintegration, which is pretty helpful, but you'll notice that Chaos damage converted to Aether damage is on these rings. What this can do, and I'm using this as an example here, is say the Hellfire Mines that deal Chaos damage will turn into Aether damage and deal Aether damage. This works with Doombolt as well, or Sigil of Consumption, because you'll be able to throw those down and suddenly they're within your damage types, and you're sort of doing the reverse conversion that you would normally be doing with Tainted Power. Instead, you don't even put a point in Tainted Power and you build Aether Fire as normal, and this works with the Sorcerer and Warlock combinations because Agonizing Flames, or no, Demon Fire, you change over to Aether damage, and Hellfire Mines can change over to Aether damage, and you'll be dealing Aether damage with these two dealing their fire damage as well. You can technically do this conversion, just as an aside, with Brimstone if you're not running Aether Ray, because this is an entire ability unto itself for a different video. But I'm just pointing it out as a weird synergizing thing that happens with items. And this works with either equipping 2 Albrecht's Dualities, or works with equipping the Clairvoyant set, which also converts Chaos damage to Aether damage. The other item synergy is Wraithborn Leg Wraps. It's +2 to Albrecht's Aether Ray, +2 to Reckless Power. Pretty much a go-to Aether pant for the Albrecht's Aether Ray user on the go. All of the other items, Ascandra's set works pretty well, and the Warp Fire weapon works awesome for the Sorcerer build, and Agravax Malice works awesome as well. But for the most part, your 3 main item synergies are going to be the Wraithborn Leg Wraps, the Aether Reach, and the Albrecht's Duality. For Devotion synergies, the big easy one to get is Aether Fire on the Imp. And you can see this, I'm going to go and run and do this real quick. You can see this, you'll see it pop up underneath the enemies. There's this sort of Aether Flame that's just sitting there. It's actually kind of hard to see because of the Devastation ability, but that's it right there. You're just adding on more Aether damage and fire damage to Albrecht's Aether Ray with a tiny, tiny explosion and a chance to confuse the target. It's a great thing to attach to the beam itself, or to Devastation, or if you have the Canister Bomb, it works great in a Canister Bomb, because the stunned enemies will just sit in the Aether Fire. The other big one is the Arcane Bomb from the Widow. This adds on it's like a little sigil on the ground, and enemies that come in contact with the sigil cause it to explode, and it deals lightning damage and Aether damage, reduces their offensive ability, lightning res, and most importantly, their Aether res. So you put this on something like Flashbang, or can you put it on Sigil? I don't remember if you can put it on Sigil. Sigil of Consumption, or I have it on Blackwater Cocktail. You could also put it on Electra's Flash Freeze, which isn't a bad thing as well. But on the Cocktail, you can spam the cocktails and thus spam the Arcane Bombs. And you can actually do that with just 1 point in Blackwater Cocktail. You don't need to actually invest points into that ability in order to get the spammable arcane bombs. I did it because I wanted something fun and different for my sorcerer build. Otherwise, the only other Aether abilities really in Devotion is from Spear of the Heavens. Spear of the Heavens has this 80% Aether damage node, a crit damage node, and an 100% Aether damage node. The Spear of the Heavens ability is something I only consider alright. It's sort of a retaliation damage thing where enemies that hit you, 50-50 chance a giant spear falls from the sky and hits them. I've never gotten a lot of value out of this ability with this particular character because a lot of times I'm playing Keep Away, or everything's frozen, or everything's stunned, or everything's just dead. So usually I just skip it and go to something else, like Time Dilation is awesome. You could also potentially pick up Meteor Shower because of the fire damage. And, I mean, if you're really, really geared towards elemental damage, you can go for Elemental Seekers. I've done that a little bit. But yeah, my big ones are Meteor Shower, Arcane Bomb, and Aether Fire. Okay, so that was a really quick look at Albrecht's Aether Ray. I'm doing this video kind of fast because, let's face it, I've done a bajillion Albrecht's Aether Ray videos over the history of playing Grim Dawn on this channel. And I mean, there are gonna be more Aether Ray videos in the future. I don't really think I need to do a super in-depth, detailed skill overview for something where I've done a bajillion builds for it. So, thanks for watching it. Anyways, everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna start mentioning that I do have a Patreon still up. It's like the first link in the description below, and I should be putting a link on the screen during this outro. So, if you go and want to support me directly, that's where you can do it. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.